Um, I'm glad you can hear me now. Sorry, I always feel so embarrassed as a gamer. I'm like, oh, tech issues. I got to get this going. Anyways, so the question, why lean into beauty and gaming, right? So as a lifelong gamer, I felt that a lot of the marketing and stories coming out of the gaming space and streaming space weren't really reflective of me and so many other quote unquote non-men who are in the space. And the reality is that nearly half of all US gamers are actually women. And so we launched GG last December with the goal of celebrating women and non-binary folks who are, helping to make gaming a more inclusive space. And we realized that in order for us to really be part of the conversation, we needed to be where gamers were, which is why we launched Refinery29 Twitch in September. And I just knew from the get-go that we wanted to launch with gaming and beauty because there's been just a ton of crossover between the two spaces. More and more, you're seeing brands like NYX, Benefit Cosmetics, Tatcha launched a cleanser in the metaverse. I mean, brands are really jumping into the space because they're recognizing there's so much opportunity there. And I love this stat where 39% of beauty fans say that they also enjoy gaming as well. And when you look at a creator like Mel, who really is occupying that space in streaming as both a gamer and as an extreme makeup athlete, which I just love that title. It's just the best thing ever. And I feel like it perfectly captures who she is and what she does. I think it's just more and more proof that the ties between gaming and beauty are just getting stronger and stronger. And yeah, we launched just some crazy, crazy numbers. And I feel like that's a testament to the interest that people have in that space. And it just shows that gamers, you might have one idea of who a gamer is, but gamers can look like me, they can look like anybody, and their interest can be anything too. It's not just gaming.
I love that. Mel, just to kind of build on that, oh, sorry to cut you off. I would love to hear your thoughts on how much your audience on Twitch overlaps with what we kind of perceive as the stereotypical gaming audience on the platform.
Absolutely. So for me, one of the things that's it was quite surprising at first because everyone always kind of sees Twitch as this like, oh, it's only there for gaming, but realistically, no. One of the biggest categories is just chatting, and there is such a big overlap now with, for instance, if we bring it back to like beauty, for instance, there is such a big overlap because so many people are still interested in beauty that when it comes to also being able to demonstrate products live, a lot of people have an interest in like, hey, what lipstick are you wearing? Hey, you look really great. Well, like I've noticed your eyelashes haven't fallen off. I can't get my eyelashes to not fall off. What glue is that? And so for me, one of the things that's really important, and it kind of feeds into why I think brands should get into the space, but also need to be very careful about getting into the space, is live streamers. It's, to me, it's almost no different to television. On television, everybody who you see, like the news anchors, everyone's wearing makeup because they want to powder their face for things like oil, make sure they look good on camera. Streamers are all on camera unless you're not doing a stream without a camera. And so it makes sense that you would also encroach into this space as well and have a look into it. But furthermore, I think brands need to be very careful as well because what I have noticed some of them aren't necessarily aware of is when streamers go live, for instance, if you can boast and brag about your 24-hour foundation as much as you want, but as a streamer, I will sit in my room. I've got studio lights facing me. I've got a PC on. Some people have two PCs, a console. I've got all these lights on. The room's going to get hot. And there is a camera pointing directly at my face. So I think brands need to be very careful. They need to be very confident as well regarding their products because everyone can see. I've had a lip gloss before and it just started dripping down my chin. And everyone's like, what lip gloss is that? Because I don't want it. And so I think brands have to be very careful as well when they go into this space because it's not pre-recorded. You can't turn around and be like, let's edit that out. It's live, and streamers are very honest. But also when you're watching a live stream, you have it also when you watch television. Sometimes you're not always completely focused just on the streamer at every point. Sometimes you look at what's in the background, or you'll be wondering like, hey, what makeup's that? If your makeup is dripping off your face because it's hot and the makeup can't stand, and say that stream is sponsored by a makeup company at that time, it's loud. So I think it's a really awesome space for them to get into. But I definitely think there has to be a lot of confidence in your products if you're going to do it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I love what you're saying about beauty products being more tangible in the stream experience like that. I think just as a sort of counterpoint or, an example of, very widespread form of brand partnership that is not as concrete every streamer is promoting some kind of energy drink, whether it's G Fuel or Game Fuel or Gamer Advantage or whatever. But you see them drink it on stream, and you have to take their word for it that it's good. Whereas the value and the strength of the products that you endorse is, I mean, it's right there on your face.
Yeah, there's no hiding. So I think that's something that they need to consider before they jump into the space. I think you've really got to be quite careful as well. You also have to consider that maybe not everybody who you're approaching is a professional makeup artist. I'm not saying I am a professional, but I may have more experience than somebody else. So if you want to go for somebody who doesn't usually wear a lot of makeup and you want to maybe say like, hey, it's beginner friendly, they need to be able to know how to apply it in a way, and the product needs to be very usable for them as well. So they don't make a fool out of themselves. They don't make a fool out of the brand live. So you've got to be very careful with it because it's a very different medium to promote.
That's fascinating, and that actually gets at the next question that I wanted to ask you guys, which I'll turn this one back to you, Melissah, to start. I'd love to just learn how this collaboration between Refinery29 and Mel came together, and why you guys at R29 decided to bring on, a prominent outside creator for your Twitch channel launch, as opposed to focusing on, the homegrown talent that you guys have internally.
Yeah, I actually knew of Mel, having gone to TwitchCon Amsterdam back in, I believe it was July, and she was one of the judges for the cosplay contest on stage. And I just remember thinking that all of her feedback was so on point. She just had this shine and effervescent personality and energy. And I remember locking that name in my mind box, right, until we were ready to start really booking guests. And so I reached out to her and be like, hey, we're launching a Twitch channel. Our first stream is going to be on beauty and gaming. Would love to have you come on and just talk about your experience and share some tips. And she was just so great and such a perfect first guest. And it just really showed the power of really relying on people who are endemic to the space. Every R29 stream tackles a different topic and theme. We've talked about not just beauty, but we've done wellness. We're doing digital fashion this week. So we're really being able to tap into different areas of expertise that Refinery is good at, but we really wanted to make sure that it felt authentic to the space and really bring in creators like Mel who can speak directly to their experience and make sure that we can pass the mic to them. And that's why it's important for us, because we really pride ourselves as a brand, not just telling other people's stories for them, but being able to give them the platform to tell their own stories. So being able to have this space and have Mel come on and share her own experiences out of her own mouth and out of her own, personal reality of things, then it was just a dream for us. And I love Mel. We're going to have her come back on again. And again, perfect first guest.
So obviously 13,000 people, I mean, that's tremendous. And it shows the effectiveness of bringing on a creator like Mel to launch your stream. But, as to be that sort of niggling devil's advocate, we saw other, large media operations like G4, for example, attempt to build their homegrown audience by signing over big streamers to co-stream on their platform or create content for their YouTube channel in a way that maybe didn't necessarily pay off for those guys. They saw a big influx of viewership, and then those people just went back to the individual channels of the streamers that they enjoyed instead of sticking around G4. So this is a question for you, Mel. As someone with a large following that you can bring to a channel like Refinery29, what can you do to ensure that that your fans build a meaningful relationship with the R29 brand instead of just kind of following you wherever you go?
I think ultimately it comes down to authenticity and trust. So it would, for my community, a lot of them seem to know what I stand for, and I do have a lot of trust with my community, which I would treasure, and I would always hate to break that trust. They understand that I will not work with a company if I genuinely didn't believe in them. They know I've turned down deals because it was something that I didn't trust. And we have discussions on Twitch. I mean, it's live. And so it's very easy to have a lot of discussions and be like, oh, you know what, for this brand, I didn't have a very good experience with it. Have anybody else had any other brands? So we'll talk about certain things. And I think ultimately that builds up that builds up the trust and the authenticity. So when I mentioned it to them, I was like, hey, so I'm going to be featured on Refinery29. A lot of them are, maybe some of them who weren't really sure what was going on are still like, okay, well, it's got to be good because Mel's not going to do something and not going to work with a company that she doesn't align with. So that is, I think, the main base of it all. Sometimes people, when it comes to like live streaming, I think sometimes people will, it depends on people's moods as well. So sometimes the people will want to tune into different things depending on their mood. So you can never guarantee that everybody's always going to stay in one place, because it's like watching television, isn't it? It depends on what mood you're in. I don't really feel like watching that today, but ultimately I think that a lot of them found that Refinery29 did very much feature a lot of other people as well that they were interested in, and there was an alignment of interest for that, and they know full well, oh, you know what, they really had a great experience with Mel. I wonder if there's any other streamers on there that they're going to feature that I might really like as well, because they featured Mel and I like Mel. So there is making sure that I just have to make sure that for any deal that I do, there is it's authentic, it's true to what I would want to work with, and my community know that. And so that's why for me, I think it's very much based on the alignment and knowing that your community have this trust in you. I think that's the base of it all, to be honest with you. And getting that trust it takes a lot of work, but it's something that you'd never want to break. But yeah, I think that's why it was quite successful, because my community know that I would never work with somebody who I didn't align in values.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I guess just as a quick follow to that, I'm curious, how long have you been streaming? How long did it take you to build that sort of trust and rapport with your audience that you describe?
In January it'll be 5 years, which is crazy. It doesn't feel like 5 years, but yeah, wow. It's been a very, very long time. Yeah.
It goes by fast, but then you think about all the hard work that went into it. Because you have to realize, like, people think streaming is so easy, and having streamed previously, like, on my own personal stuff, it's a lot of work. And to be able to build a community like Mel has, like, major props to you, because it's really incredible. And I'm happy that, you know, more and more blessings upon blessings will come to you.
It's very kind.
Seriously, 5 years. I've never done anything for 5 years consistently, so that's I'm impressed. So I'm going to go a little bit over time here, if that's cool with you guys, because we did have that downtime earlier. And Melissah, there's a question, really burning question that I'm sure a lot of people in our audience are wondering. So just going to put it right to you. How is Refinery29 planning to monetize the Twitch channel? How will this become a revenue stream for the publication in the future?
I mean, I think whenever you're launching anything new, there's sort of the 3 R's, right? You have reach, relevance, and revenue. And if you hit all 3 marks, that's the trifecta. That's the dream, as any publisher, media brand, any brand really, that's what you want. And right now we're really focusing on the first 2 R's, which is reach and relevance. And that's working with creators like Mel, booking other guests beyond Twitch also. And we're really focused on those 2. And we're planning a lot of exciting content for our audience, and having that another touch point for the Archetype brand. The revenue side of thing, that's very much in our mind for 2023. We have a good idea, but you know, right now we're really just focused on the content.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that's a wise way to grow the channel at first. And Mel, I have one more question for you. This is not something that we had discussed previously, so I apologize for putting you on the spot, but it's something I feel like you'll have a good take on. As the streaming wars, you know, the so-called streaming wars heat up again between platforms like YouTube and Twitch and what have you, why do you use Twitch? Why are you still confident about Twitch as your streaming platform of choice for this audience?
It's a good question, to be honest with you. And Twitch is kind of something that I feel very, very familiar with. I am very aware, though, that a lot of other platforms are encroaching more into the live streaming space. But ultimately, I think that the model that Twitch has is king. When you have YouTube, it is very, very well designed for pre-recorded videos. And for instance, TikTok, it is very well designed for a vertical video format. And Twitch ultimately has always been designed for live streaming. And so I really like the model that Twitch has. I think a lot of it does make sense. There's some stuff which absolutely can be improved, like there can be with any platform, but you know, certain platforms are there for certain reasons. YouTube for pre-recorded videos, or like, which almost look like TV shows for certain content creators who release an episode a week, short form videos. And while a lot of brands tend to slightly overlap, I think ultimately we do associate certain platforms with certain things. And so for me, it makes sense. I would absolutely still diversify. I'll post vertical videos on TikTok, and then I'll also post some of these videos onto YouTube Shorts, because now they've introduced that why not? And I've got photos that I'll post on Twitter, but I'll post photos equally on Instagram. But to me, Twitch is very much the live streaming space. That absolutely could change, and I'm not saying that that's the only way it has to be, but certain other platforms are definitely looking into it. At the moment, I definitely feel comfortable sticking with Twitch, because I think a lot of it makes sense. It's the UI and the UX is ultimately completely designed for live streaming. Whereas if you go from a platform such as YouTube, where the UI and the UX has been designed for pre-recorded videos, it makes it harder for the discoverability of that. While they could absolutely push it, most people, if you ask them what do YouTube do, they'll say it was pre-recorded videos. And so I think ultimately it comes down to the association of brands and platforms. As I've said, that could absolutely change in the future, who knows? But ultimately, I think we could all agree that's definitely how it stands at the moment.
Yeah, Mel nails it. And I would just add that what Twitch really thrives on is the community and chat engagement, and the way that it has its own lingo, its own memes, everything that has created an ecosystem that is very unique to Twitch. And again, who knows, down the line, the live streaming wars might get intense, YouTube gaming takes over, whatnot. But as of right now, as Mel said, like, Twitch is king when it comes to creating that sort of community aspect and really relying on chat to be a part of the conversation. So that's my little 2 cents on that. I could talk about that forever, but yes, I'll leave it at that.
Well, let's put a pin on it. I think that is such a good point about the lingo. Poggers to that. Oh God, I feel like such a lingo.
Yes.
I forget I said that.
Anyway,
okay. I think we're a little over time here, so I'm going to call it there. It's been such a joy to talk to you guys about this. Your passion and your expertise for the topic fully comes through. So thank you again to Melissah Yang and Melissah Croft for taking the time to walk us through what you guys are doing.
Thank you
so much for
this was so
having
fun.
us.